Interview style, I'm getting the PTSD. I would say on a day-to-day basis, I keep pretty chill. Like when I'm not like in training or doing army stuff, I try to get up by 8. I get a run in every morning just to get the blood flowing.
Speaking of conspiracies, I'm curious to pick your brain on Denver International Airport.
Oh Lord. The conspiracy story, it's set up in the shape of a swastika. The main thing is like the project went like $2 billion over budget. As long as we physically live on Earth, like the need for real estate will be there, right?
Elon Musk's gonna fuck you up.
Well, and we go to Mars and buy some shit there. This is not legal advice or
This is not financial
advice.
Yeah.
This is just, entertainment. So,
Yeah.
Take from it what you will. There's this podcast. It's called the Sip and Soju podcast.
Oh,
It's like,
dude, wait,
you just
no
watch
way.
every one of those videos. I mean, your knowledge will just be immense.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Sip and Soju Podcast, episode 8. I'm here with a very special guest, Mr. Oak Zoom.
What's up, man? How you guys doing?
Thanks so much for coming out, man.
For sure, dude. I'm excited to do this.
Or actually, thanks so much for letting me come over because I'm at your place right now. But
For sure.
Yeah, why don't we get these things cracked? First time trying Trulies.
I'd rather a Four Loko sized Truly.
That scared you at
I actually
first.
thought this man brought Four Lokos. I was like, this is serious. But
What is your take on Four Locos?
honestly,
It's pretty good.
this is nice.
Yeah.
It's like you have to like graduate from Four Lokos at some point. It's like everybody knows what it is, and like once you've had it, I feel like you have a phase where it's like, oh, like this could actually be effective, like going out.
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
want to pregame, you gotta get a couple shots in you, or you gotta do a bunch of mixed drinks or like a ton of beer. But like a Four Loko, like Four Lokos get you going quick.
Yeah.
So especially if you're like gunning it, like you're ready to go.
I've never personally gunned a Four Loko, but I know for a fact that if you do it, you'll probably black out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's like usually comes right back out.
Yeah.
But after a few iterations of having a Four Loko, I feel like you just realize that's not like the way to go, and there's much better options out there.
For sure. One of my roommates actually in Madison, I think he likes Four Locos. So whenever we like get drinks for the entire group, we just grab a Four Loko.
Jeez. Animal.
Crazy. But yeah, man, thanks so much for joining today. And I guess I know we've been able to meet up a couple of times, and we've definitely been able to kick things off, and you're a really chill and cool dude. But I feel like I don't really know you that well compared to a lot of other people. So really hoping that this would be a great opportunity to get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely. I'm open book, so ask whatever you feel like, and we'll get this going.
So we'll start with why don't we start with I guess general, where are you from? Where'd you go to college, and how'd you end up here, I guess?
Dude, interview style. I'm getting the PTSD. Cool. Well, yeah. The backstory for me: born and raised in the D.C. area, in Northern Virginia. One of your other podcast guests was also from that area. But grew up in Northern Virginia, suburbs. Parents both worked for the federal government for a while, and so that's how they ended up there. And yeah, I went to college at the University of Virginia. Since college, I've been working as a product manager, now a realtor in Texas, doing some real estate stuff. Also an officer in the Army Reserve, and honestly trying to do what I can. Right now, I feel like I'm trying to do a little bit more of the going broad and then going deep kind of thing, because I feel like we got a lot of time to really explore what it is that you really want to do. And I feel like right off the bat, a lot of people feel like maybe you do think that you know what you want to do, and that's great. But for me, I feel like I want to explore a lot of things and kind of see what really works for me is kind of my cup of tea, and kind of go down that route. So.
Gotcha. No, for sure. 100%. You're 24 right now, right?
24.
Yeah. Oh yeah, our birthdays are literally almost the same day.
Yeah.
But yeah, while you're 24 years old, you might as well explore, and I think that's really dope that you're doing all that stuff. I guess to segue straight from all the stuff that you're doing, how much sleep do you get every night? Because you're doing a lot of stuff,
Fair. Yeah, it's a good question. So I feel like it really varies. There's times where I'll get a lot of sleep, which is when I feel like I'm just like in a good like rhythm of going to bed early kind of thing. Being in the military, I feel like I've been accustomed to going to bed pretty early and like getting up early like naturally. So I'm almost like that's part of like my natural clock, if you want to call it that.
What do you define as going to bed early and waking up early?
Yeah, going to bed early, it's like, lights at like 10 or like 11, like usually by like, 12 o'clock, and then getting up like by 7. But I would say on a day-to-day basis, I keep it pretty chill. Like when I'm not like in training or doing Army stuff, I try to get up by 8. I get a run in every morning just to get the blood flowing, get some cardio in. That's another thing where I feel like the military's just got me into like working out in the morning, right? And so normally I'll just do 2 days and do some cardio in the morning and then work out again during the day and actually get a lift in. But yeah, I feel like I get a good amount of sleep now, but there's times where I'm not getting a lot of sleep, which is mostly doing Army stuff, or if I'm just like grinding, doing both both jobs at the same time, or I'm not getting a lot of sleep. So when I can get a lot of sleep, I take advantage. So.
Gotcha. No, I feel that 100%. I feel like sometimes when I'm really in the rhythm of things, like I can, like when you're really focused on doing something, especially if like it's something that has like a start and finish like end goal, I feel like sometimes like you can just grind through, but then afterwards, like same thing with like midterms in college and stuff like that, you like die the next day. You're like, oh,
right.
Definitely need to take time off. But
yeah, definitely.
how was having like two parents that worked in the federal government? I feel like I haven't heard of many, like, I personally don't know many friends or like just people that had family that did that.
Sure, yeah. Well, so honestly, I feel like growing up in the DC area, that's not an anomaly.
Okay.
It's pretty common, I think, for families to at least have one of the parents, working in the federal government or kind of located in the DC area for that reason. I don't think it was really, for me growing up, it was like that was just the jobs that they had. I think because my mom still works for the Library of Congress, and she's grinding it out still, and it's I think taught me the value of hard work, and I think because government jobs honestly are not like off the bat you're collecting the bag, right?
Yeah.
It's very different from private sector, the trajectory of like your career and that type of thing. So they've had to really like work their way up, and I feel like that's a big part of like me feeling like I should really be doing my best to get even better or do even more with the opportunities I have. So,
did having parents that like worked in that sector, like, and seeing them when you were little, like, did that make you not want to go in that field? Or like, I'm curious, like, did you ever dabble in like government type?
Well, I am technically a government property.
Oh, because of the military,
right? But I'm not doing it like full time. So I think seeing that probably more or less like made me realize, also them like telling me that the government is not the best career path if you want to explore a lot of different things and get a breadth of different opportunities and that type of thing, because it is pretty funneled into like a specialty area kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
At least most of the time I feel like. So that was just never an interest of mine, and also like I could not see myself living in the DC area. So
didn't you say that like people that grew up in Nova, like they always come back at the end of the day? Is that like
yeah, that's a conspiracy, not a conspiracy, but it's a theory that I think some of my friends and I have come to, that it's like when you grow up somewhere, and I feel like this is a lot of like suburban areas or people that grew up in the suburbs of like a major metropolitan area, that you think that growing up there, it's like, wow, like this place sucks, like I don't want to be here. But you realize once you come back from college, and you're just experiencing it as an adult, you realize it's like actually pretty good, like cost of living, like the things to do, the job opportunities, the type of schools in the area. Like there's a reason that your parents probably lived there, or lived there and raised a family, right? So those are things like when you hit like an age, I feel like I'm talking like an old head, but like you get to a certain point, it's like these are things that will matter at some point, right?
Yeah.
It's like something to consider that, well, in the future when I have a family and settling down, that might be an option. And so I think naturally a lot of people just like think it's comfortable and it's good. So.
Yeah, and also like all your friends and family that you grew up with is like mostly there, so
right,
it makes sense to still have that like community, you can fall back on.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Speaking of conspiracies, I'm curious to pick your brain on Denver International Airport.
Oh, Lord.
you want to like dive into that for a sec?
Well, that's funny because I was actually showing my friends in Chicago last night. We were just like housed and
Yeah.
you know had YouTube on. I was like, oh, let me show you guys something. DIA.
You
right?
pulled that up? No way.
Yeah, because it's like people like it's like some people are,
Do you mind like explaining what that is for like anyone who's not in the loop?
Yeah, to give you guys some context out there for those of you that are not aware. DIA, Denver International Airport. The airport code is DEN now, but basically the conspiracy story is that the Denver International Airport is built for a different purpose than what it actually is. There's a lot of telltale signs of that. You know, for example, the artwork in the airport that used to be there, super sus. You know, it was like Nazis, like, you know, and like there's like children running in the paintings, like not something you'd expect to see at an airport, right? It's a strange interpretation of modern art, I guess, if you will. There's, you know, the airport runways. Normally the formation is just a standard airport runway setup, but it's set up in the shape of a swastika at Denver International Airport, which is very sus.
Yeah.
The main thing is like the project went like $2 billion over budget or something like that, and it took like years longer than it was supposed to take. And supposedly there's underneath the baggage system underground, there's like literally multi-story buildings that exist underneath the airport, and you know, questions to be answered, like what is that all about, you know?
Yeah, that's wild, man. Like, I'm curiously where did you hear about these buildings that are underground with the baggage? Like is it on Reddit or like did someone like where's the source of truth for this?
Well,
I'm very curious about
the
that.
source of truth is a loose term here, right?
Yeah.
I think other YouTube videos and like infographics show is like an example. I think that was the video that I was showing them. Other news outlets, but the conspiracies are like they're very thick plots to them, and so like major news outlets at the time like were, you know, putting out stories about Denver International. And for me, it's just like, you know, I'd flown through Denver before, and some of the things like I noticed, and I was like, oh, these are sus. Like,
yeah.
Just like Google it real quick, and like everybody's saying the same thing, you know. So when everybody's saying the same thing, you realize it too. It's like
it's not just me, yeah.
It's just like maybe it's real, like something's to be had here. So
I'm gonna throw on some pictures of some of the photos that Oak was talking about. We'll throw them on the video. Yeah, I personally, just from hearing it from you, like that's where I got all of my information. But yeah, if there are pictures out there that I need to dive into that. Yeah, sounds like a Sunday, you know, hungover type of thing. Sit in bed, eat some pizza.
Yeah, you're going down the rabbit hole of kind of conspiracy stories on YouTube and that type of thing. So
outside of like the whole Denver International Airport, what other conspiracy theories like do you have top of mind that you're passionate about?
You know, I wouldn't say I'm really passionate, you know, about any particular,
or just like interested in sharing.
You know, back in the day, I think, you know, when you're a kid, you buy into a lot of what you see in books and in the media and that type of thing, just because it's like you read it, so it's fact. The Bermuda Triangle is one that comes to mind. But I feel like a lot of people feel type of way about, you know. I haven't had any firsthand experience like flying through or swimming or boating through the Bermudas, but you know, that's one that I remember like as a kid reading the books about. I was like, yeah, it's kind of sucks.
It's like all signals lost, people disappear, no bodies, all that stuff.
Yeah, so pretty hard to explain that too.
Yeah, I used to go on deep dives for that in black holes, I feel like, so yeah. That's my childhood right there. Very fun childhood. Dude, the whole DIA thing got me fucked up.
Really?
No, I'm just playing. You know, it's so interesting because like I feel like I want to look more into it, but I'm afraid that like I always want to find an answer, and I feel like I won't be able to find it until I actually fly to Denver and then like try to explore or something.
Dude, that's a risk to take. I mean, like you're putting that on yourself to uncover some truths that, you know, maybe.
Yeah, maybe shouldn't be. I wonder if like they have like a specific lounge. You know, like they have like the Centurion lounges. Maybe like there's like a certain panel you can like open and climb downstairs in the ladder. You know, you never know.
Hey, yeah. I mean, that's on you, bro. Like, honestly, I'm not aware I don't know if the risk reward ratio is there for me. Like,
no, I feel that.
Digging in Denver, but
I've never even flown to Denver's airport, so I don't
Oh, really?
think I know what it even looks like. It's
Yeah, I mean, it is a big airport. It's like a pretty common layover if you're going like east to west coast, I feel like, or
Gotcha.
especially from like Seattle or LA, like over to anywhere on the east coast. So,
well, next time I have a layover, I'll definitely try to make the effort to make it there.
for sure,
Good
for sure.
time.
You gotta let me know what you discover, bro. Like,
If I do discover something, you won't hear from me again. So this will be
That's
the last word.
well, this is video proof. Max is going out on this.
Don't make me a
adventure, so-
statistic. Find me. But I know we kind of took a turn there with the whole controversy thing. But I guess going back to like college experience, and you said you did product management. I'm curious, like, how you learned about product and like what got you first into it.
Yeah, sure. So my college experience is a little like unconventional, so to speak. There's, I feel like, more than an hour worth of material I could just talk about, like
For
my
sure.
college experience, because it was kind of whack, honestly. Not whack, but it was a little unconventional, like I said. So
Actually, like if before we dive into the whole PM thing, I'm very curious if you give like a quick like overview of what you mean by that, because I personally am curious to hear about that. Yeah.
well, I mean, first off, I'm a transfer kid, right? So I didn't go to college for 4 years at the same school, and honestly, I feel like a lot of what college is like your freshman year experience and building off of that each subsequent year, right? And you don't think about that because as a freshman, it's like, oh, you're so green, like you don't know anything, and like you don't really remember that as something that was like a foundational experience like the rest of your college time. But college being like a singular time in your life that you have 4 years of, I feel like it's for most people pretty essential that you build off of the friends that you made freshman year, the experiences you had first year, and the knowledge that you have, like what to do and that type of thing. And I'm the oldest of my siblings. I only have a younger brother, and so honestly, being like the guinea pig most of the time, I had to kind of figure things out.
Yeah.
And so everything from like picking classes and like not knowing like when to like do that, or certain classes with certain professors and that type of thing, or certain majors and whatnot. So I kind of bounced around a lot of different areas and majors, and obviously transferring schools and different programs and that type of thing to end up where I'm at today, which is not to say that I regret what I've
for
done,
sure.
but again, it's like a very zigzag route to like being a PM at IBM and being an Army officer. It wasn't exactly just cut and dry like this is how I did it, and it was all just like a straight line. So
I think that's really cool where everyone ends up. Like any job nowadays, it's like no one has the same path, and I feel like that's so cool to explore, just like knowing what you did and like how you, I guess, found your way towards something that you were more interested in. So
yeah, definitely, which also is, I feel like, cool to talk about in avenues like this where you can actually explain the whole process and how it's not like what most people would expect, like you do 4 years of engineering, you end up as an engineer in Boeing. It's like it's almost never like that, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has their own unique like path to how they got to where they're at today, and it's pretty cool to hear about what people have done. So
for sure. But like, I guess in college, did you do any internships that like kind of geared you towards product, or like how did you discover that? Because I didn't even know what product management was until probably like my junior or senior year of college, because like no one talked about it in Alabama. Like
yeah, well,
it's not a common topic or a career like in the South,
fair.
But it's like super dope. Like I absolutely love it.
Yeah, definitely. So I think to me, product management was very ambiguous and kind of mysterious to me as well before I kind of got into it in real depth. Everybody knows what software engineering is and like development and being a CS major and that type of thing. But I guess I'll kind of lay out the timeline first before I like kind of get into like the product management piece of it. So starting out in college, once I transferred to UVA, I was like an engineering major, and I found myself not doing super well in the classes. But that being said, I felt like engineering was like my calling because I love working on cars, like doing things like building products, that type of thing. And little did I know that was like kind of the building blocks of like what a PM does and that type of thing day to day. But engineering was kind of what I thought. Mechanical engineering, I wanted to go build race cars for McLaren F1 or something like that, right?
Makes sense, yeah.
And that was kind of the dream, and I thought that was like the path to take is studying engineering. So my freshman year summer, actually, I interned at Union Pacific as an engineering intern on the track and signal team for basically on a rail program like Union Pacific. It's a big railroad, obviously. They operate west of the Mississippi River, and pretty much like an oligopoly of the different railroad companies there. But got to be hands-on with like the rail yard and doing track and signal. and actually being, there at the switches and that type of thing. I wore a hard hat and had Tim's. That's where I got my Tim's
Wait,
that
really?
summer. Literally. Yeah, the company paid for you to get work boots. So that's why they're steel-toed, and I have those Tim's.
I thought it was just like for a fashion statement.
No, and it's funny because I got the Tim's before like
they're in.
It
right?
was like, well, I don't think they were in. I think maybe they were, but I didn't know about it at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, these are steel-toed. They're like pretty cool style. Like I'll just rock them for work. And it turns out that I've been like wearing that same pair of Tim's ever since to go out, and they're just like splattered in like alcohol because I don't want to get my shoes dirty, but they're steel-toed boots. Like, what do you have to lose?
Yeah, I know for sure.
So, I digress. That was a tangent, but working in Union Pacific, living in Omaha, Nebraska was like quite an experience as a freshman. First time living outside of Virginia, right? It was pretty cool. But I went back to college. That was when I transferred. Was still in engineering, and I interned at Boeing on the avionics team. So it's like basically like airplane like electronic systems. But it's still heavily like test and evaluation work I was doing, specifications for like test flight and that type of thing. So it was like the 777X airplane program, which is like the Dreamliner, pretty cool airplane program. It's like replacing the 747, which it's already replaced the 747.
Okay.
And I was living in Seattle, good time. But I think after that summer, I realized that engineering wasn't really the path that I wanted to take for a career. And I wanted to kind of set aside my mechanical interest in working on cars and that type of thing as more of like a hobby, because some of the time I almost feel like if you make what you enjoy doing outside of work like your work, it no longer has the
it's
same
not passion.
appeal.
Yeah. It's like your job instead of like something you look forward to doing sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah, and it can be, right? Not always, but for me, I felt like being an engineer was going to funnel me into being really good at doing not one task, but knowing so much about a specific system, and being able to implement that and doing the testing and being able to, specify, all these things for test flight, which was cool. And the comp was pretty good as an engineer.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that's what I wanted to continue to pursue. So then after that, I was trying to look into, what things, which honestly, there's three main things that I care about, like, I look for like a job or like kind of career stuff. Like the number one thing that a lot of people like to sugarcoat and they say they don't care about, but it's like compensation, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. Like, we're young. Like, we need to put food on the table. It's great to like chase your passion and do all this stuff that you really enjoy doing. That's important too, but if it doesn't pay the bills and it can't further, your equity position and what you want to do in investing in other things, or furthering your ability to go like explore your passion, right? I feel like once you secure the bag, you can then really do like what you want to do. And so, that's the number one thing I think. Second is, what I'm actually being able to produce and the tangible impact I have on the organization.
Sure.
So in a corporate job, right, it's like you're always building something for someone else almost, which is just a matter of fact, right? Everybody reports to somebody. And so if I'm going to be in that type of system, I want to be producing product that I can actually see and have like a tangible impact on the business and see, revenue growth, whatever it might be for the company, right? That I can actually, say like I did that. It's not just like small cog in a wheel kind of thing. Like it's a product. Like you have ownership in a product almost. And then the third thing is like, the lateral, like I guess applicability of that role, and kind of what it gets you with the breadth of experience. So I think as like as a product manager, you're handed a lot of different pods, and like, whether it be, business management, analytics, marketing,
design,
sales,
all that stuff,
user experience and development and engineering, that type of thing. So it really is like a wide variety of different job skills that you're getting that career capital to be able to apply to other things. So
that's really cool, man. I'm glad you called out for one of the factors, at least being like a young and ambitious explorer, is like securing the bag. I feel like that is a very taboo topic, especially in most corporate environments, just because I don't know why that's the case, but I mean, the more it's talked about, the more people can leverage it for each other and help each other, because like I think salary discrepancy is a huge thing that like impacts, minorities, impacts like, certain genders. And I think that's like really messed up how that can be the case if like companies don't disclose that information.
Right. And it's like, the way I see it, right, it's exactly as you said, it's the corporations are the ones benefiting by not like
Yep.
making it public information, like what like the salary range is per se, or not being transparent with what people are getting paid and the pay range and that type of thing. I know a lot of tech companies and different organizations are like working on that,
Yeah.
but they're a long way from really being transparent about what people are getting paid. And at the end of the day, like that's like what you value as like their worth to the company. So
I'm really also glad that you talked about how you're really focused on delivering like measurable, like I guess KP, like key performance indicators, like measurable content. Because at the end of the day, compensation, I think, should be higher if you're delivering results. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. If you're more efficient and you get things done, I think you should be compensated at a high rate. Why not, have that extra flexibility with being able to pursue other hobbies and, all that stuff.
yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up with being efficient in your work. So I think that's one of the things that is almost like top of mind to me. Not like being efficient in my work, because if you know what the fuck you're doing, like you're gonna do a good job.
Yeah.
Right? It's not hard to produce and like deliver on product, right? Or whatever it might be that you're doing, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't have gotten hired for the job. You'd be replaced by somebody else. But for me, that's like part of the reason that I feel compensation included is that almost like when you're working a corporate job, it's like the way it feels is the less hours you work, basically the more you're getting paid per hour, right? Because that's just like any system. If you like understand efficiency, right? It's like if you spend less time doing something and are able to get the same results, well, you're getting better product or more for like less of your time.
Yeah.
And time capital is huge, right? You only have so much time in this life. So
Yeah.
I'm doing all this stuff and I want to explore side hobbies, and like you're doing this podcast and all this stuff, and those are things that you want to explore like outside of your work.
For sure.
And I feel like there's so many things outside of having a job that I want to explore. And so this securing the bag that we're talking about, as like corny as it can be, like, it's like actually critical to being able to like pursue these other things. Because, for example, like, doing real estate, right? Investing in real estate and, the disaster of the condo that I have in San Francisco, whatever it might be. Those are things where there's an unlimited salary cap to what you can produce if you're able to just be efficient, right? Because not everybody has the time or is able to do these things because, they're tied up with work or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And working corporate America, it's like, you can only get so far, I feel like. And it's almost like a generational difference where a lot of people our age, I feel like, are pursuing these things outside of their day job. And like our parents' generation, and my parents are always telling me like, oh, like, you got to retire, do your 20 years, 30 years, whatever
your
it might
pension,
be. Do your
yeah,
401k, like invest in that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like I'm gonna retire when I'm like 30 or 35, and like, I'll be doing a lot of other stuff. Not to say that I'm not gonna be working or like have businesses or have this commercial real estate and all this. But there's things that there's a lot to be had, a lot of opportunity outside of just a W-2 job. So.
I feel like the point about financial freedom that really like we've been hammering at from securing the bag, I feel like that's like one of the most like beautiful things that you can actually achieve in America. It's like if you're very smart with your time and if you pursue and offer value with like something that you're producing, I feel like it's a reality that's honestly like rather than a blessing, it's like we're very privileged to have this opportunity to do it in the US because I know there are a lot of other like countries out there where it's like tech and all this stuff isn't even like fathomable just because like either cost of living is like so low or like they don't even have technology,
Yeah. No, I agree totally. I mean, there's a lot of great things I feel like about capitalism, and one of them is that if you put in the time and the effort and you actually work for what you want to get, like it'll come. It might take a lot of time to get there, but honestly, it's not always like fair, right? It's luck, but if you put in the time and effort and you're willing to pursue something, you have that opportunity and you're able to do that. Free market economy. I mean, you can start a business. You can make YouTube videos and you can monetize them. It's like, there's all these things that in other countries or other societies, like you can't pursue that just because of the system that people grew up in. So.
No, I completely agree, man. I'm very curious. Speaking of like one side hobby that you've been exploring quite a bit, and I like to consider you kind of a guru now because you already have two deals under your belt. It's just like, how did you get started with like real estate and like I guess like prior to you actually purchasing your first property, like how much time did you spend researching and like finding that?
Sure, yeah. So, I think started in college with, being part of AKSI, the professional business fraternity. Honestly, I feel like pledging AKSI, I learned more that semester than the entirety of the rest of my college experience combined. Just because of how concentrated the content was. So basically at UVA, third year ICE is the program for commerce that, as a third year, that's what you go through. And basically they compact that into 1 semesters of pledging. And as anybody knows, there's a lot of content packed in pledging any organization, fraternity, what have you. And I think I learned a lot from that, whether it be DCFs or understanding market, different factors in valuing a company and that type of thing. And it's all like kind of finance related stuff. But at the end of the day, it comes down to a lot of like asset classes, right? And valuations of different assets. And so that's something that I kind of got more into, which is got me more interested in investing and understanding the markets and that type of thing. And so when I look at asset classes, I feel like real estate is one that is cyclical, like the rest of the market is, but has historically done exceptionally well, and it's something where if you put in an equity position, you're very unlikely to lose that equity position or decrease the value and over the course of 5-10 years, like you would even like a broader market index fund or ETF like the S&P 500 or something like that. So
as long as the house doesn't burn down or a natural disaster, it's like if you choose like a popular location, like people are in a housing crisis, people are eventually going to want to move there,
Right. And as long as we physically live on Earth, like the need for real estate will be there, right?
Elon Musk's gonna fuck you up.
Well, and we go to Mars and buy some shit there, and you're fine too, right? So or metaverse land. We talk about that too, right? It's like people are spending like millions of dollars in commercial real estate in the metaverse, and that's just crazy right now, because especially with the price right now at the time of this video of Ethereum and all these tokens, that
very low.
That back what is the blockchain, but what's to say that if you're watching this like 4 or 5 years from now, it might be a completely different world. And that
buy Dogecoin in the metaverse. No, don't do that. Save your money. Invest in an index fund. Don't do what I just said.
Yeah, this is not legal advice or
this is
investing
not financial
advice.
Yeah.
This is just entertainment. So take from it what you will. But
we are not financial advisors, and we will not be held liable for your personal decisions. So just want to put that out there.
I wish a lot more people told me that too before I started investing in some things. But like here we are. So I mean that was the main thing, right? So getting really more like interested in investing and understanding equities and the market and kind of how the market works and that kind of thing got me interested in just like real estate. And so kind of natural course of action is just like learn more about it. Spend a lot of time on Investopedia. Obviously YouTube, probably the best education source, which I feel like in the next 10 years, I feel like so much learning will be done on YouTube compared to traditional education, because the quality of the content you can get from people that are halfway across the world or just otherwise inaccessible. People we talk about like Kevin O'Leary, all these people that have like videos on YouTube. You wouldn't be able to have a face-to-face conversation with them 20 years ago. There's no way you'd be able to get this knowledge from them, right? Outside of maybe like a book you can read. But I feel like it's so much more digestible, on YouTube, and it's just like a really good platform for all that. This is not an ad, but this is just my thoughts.
We're not sponsored by YouTube. I'm gonna blurb out every time you say YouTube. I'm gonna bleep it.
All right, good. Yeah, we don't want to give anybody the wrong idea. But So kind of then thought about buying a house and saving up for that and understanding the financing behind it and different loan terms, and it works out that 2021 2020 was a great buying opportunity with the interest rates as aside from the fact that the rising cost of housing and inflated prices, I feel like, of real estate right now, locking in a 30-year fixed at a 2.75% is unheard of. Right? In the past like 20 years, I don't think it's ever been 2-something%. Like you talk about 4 or 5%, what it is now, people are like freaking out, like, oh, the interest rates are so high, like 5%. Like, man, think about like back in like 2009, 2010, like you could not get a loan anywhere, and it was like a 12-10% interest rate. Forget about it. So times have changed, but yeah, it was a good opportunity for me to buy. Did that, got my real estate license, and kind of went from there.
And I guess like if you could provide 3 resources, like specific resources, you say YouTube, but like 3 specific resources that you think would be most valuable to people that have like a baseline knowledge about real estate and about like how to find the right property, but like want to get, that extra additional that they could potentially use. Do you have like any top of mind that?
Yeah, I mean, there's this podcast. It's called the Sip and Soju podcast.
Oh,
It's like,
dude, wait,
you just
no
watch
way.
every one of those videos. I mean, your knowledge will just be immense. No, so I think, well, obviously do that. That's not a joke. But there's tons of resources out there that are really good for understanding, the real estate market, different trends, and keeping up to date with like real estate news and that type of thing. But also like the financing side of it, and the buying, the asset class of, real estate, and understanding the way that you can work with, other investors and that type of thing, and the way that it'll perform in the long run, depending on your, risk tolerance for that. But I think if there's 3 specific resources I'd give, and I don't know if you're gonna link these or whatever.
Yeah, sure. I might as well.
I'm not like sponsoring anybody or anything, but yeah. So I mean, I did talk about YouTube. I would say some resources on YouTube that are really good for understanding. I mean, so Investopedia is the number one. Right?
Yeah.
I think the amount of just like knowledge and like articles on Investopedia that are written by people often call themselves industry experts or whatnot, but they're published and reviewed and edited by their board or whatever it might be at Investopedia, and I think those are really valuable.
And they're really easy to just like read. I feel
yeah.
To a layman, it's like they break it down really well. So
yeah, and it's like they're super short, like 30-second videos about like a certain topic, and so that's also how I understood how to do like discounted cash flow evaluations for a company, that type of thing, is like going through like all the Investopedia pages of just like what it might be for whatever term that it is I don't understand. So Investopedia is number one thing. The second thing, aside from my YouTube channel that also has some useful content.
Hey, yo, link in description, man.
But I think there's a lot of big real estate YouTubers out there. A couple that I can think of right off the bat are, Ryan Pineda, Pineda Capital. He's a big real estate investor in the Las Vegas area. Graham Stephan, everybody knows about. Andre Jake does tons of crypto and investing videos, but he's not really specifically for real estate. And I guess like all the big real estate guys that are commercial. So I think Grant Cardone, a lot of people have something negative to say about him because he's kind of a meme. But
I get so many ads on my YouTube when I pull them. I usually just hit skip.
Yeah, and so it's like you got to pick and choose the useful pieces of information out of all this content, right?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like 20 years ago there's probably a lack of information. Now there's too much information. So
you
really
filter it out.
Filter out and understand what is valuable content that you can actually bring some value to your life and what you're trying to accomplish. And again, everybody's path is different, so it's not like you have $1 million in the bank to go buy a $5 million property and amortize it and take the tax benefits out of that. And so it's very specific to your situation and what you want to do. So
gotcha, man. Well, dude, everyone who's made it this far in the podcast, comment down below W Oak in the comment section for all those resources, because hey man, again, we are not financial advisors, but I feel like you guys should check those out. So
yeah, no, I mean really just doing your own research.
Yeah,
online.
yeah.
There's so much information out there.
Don't take anything at face value. Definitely cross-reference and look into as many things as you can, because not everything that everyone says is true. But I definitely do agree with what Oak said about how when you filter out and you pick the pieces that actually matter, it can be really useful for you.
And one thing that I actually didn't mention, for me, getting my real estate license was honestly more an educational thing than actually a return on my investment. So
okay.
I haven't sold any properties, and all my clients were at the time were just investors. But as you know, I travel a lot, and so it's hard to actually keep up with that. So for me, getting my real estate license actually helps you understand real estate law, the different things that are specific to your state. So I have my license in Texas, and so there's specific things with the Texas, law of contracts, the TREC, which is the Texas Real Estate Commission, and the way that they do their contracts and specific things with the law there, and understanding the ways that you can leverage different things specific to that state that I otherwise wouldn't have known about, because it's really intricate stuff that sometimes may never be applicable again, but it's just the breadth of knowledge that you can get, which I think is pretty valuable. I don't think that I'd recommend anybody just to get their real estate license just for the purpose of education, but it is an added benefit of if you are thinking about being a realtor. That's something that is definitely something that not many people talk about. It's not just like you get your license, it's super easy, you take the test. Like, the test is tough. I mean, failed it the first time. So
yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, how would you rate it compared to like anything else you've taken?
It's well, I mean, it's not like intellectually difficult, right?
It's just a lot of like memorization, is it?
It's very specific knowledge to.
Okay.
It's almost like, I don't want to even make that analogy, but if I were to make an analogy, it would be like something like the LSATs, right? It's like a lot of like memorization of like specific information to like Texas is for the Texas state exam and that type of thing. It's not like somebody that actually paid attention to the coursework. I think it's like 120 hours or something like that you have to actually do your studies and take the courses before you can actually take the test. So it's not difficult per se, but you really have to know your stuff to pass it. So I think it's the same for like every state.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's really cool that you took it, and I feel like, do you regret taking it?
No.
Okay.
I think I haven't leveraged using my real estate license to actually buy and sell any real estate right now. But if I want to, I mean, I have the opportunity to do that, and I can still see the MLS, which is another added benefit, because I can literally go on the MLS and see when houses get listed on the market, and the specifics about the lot size and the property ownership, and whether or not it's in a flood zone and all this stuff that's very specific to like the property. So even as an investor, it's like useful information to have that I think you'd otherwise have to like purchase from a third party to get you that, and it might not even be as quickly propagated on the website. So.
Gotcha. No, that's really cool you did that. I feel like you epitomize the definition of someone who is exploring everything that they have an interest in, and like definitely making that a priority. I think that's super cool, because I think a lot of people are just like not motivated enough, because like starting something new from scratch is always super daunting. But when you start it, I feel like that's the hardest thing, and then you build a little bit of traction. But I just feel like nowadays, not necessarily lazy, I'm gonna cut that out. But like I feel like people, like, there's so much that you have going on, especially if you're a full-time employee, with like your commitments, with like whether you have a relationship, you have family you need to take care of, all that stuff. That's super difficult to be able to explore everything else that you want to do. So I really commend you for having number one, but also like making it a priority with like the work-life balance that you've built for yourself. So that's cool.
Of course. Yeah, I appreciate that, dude. I mean, honestly, it's like it's all the perspective, right? That you're looking on the outside in, I suppose, for kind of what my journey has been, trying to explore these different things. I think it's not even unfair to say, like, humans are inherently lazy. Like, that's why we produce these processes to make things more efficient, and you save time and not have to put into so much work to do certain things. But I think there's a lot to be had with exploring things you don't know. One, doing things you haven't done before prolongs your life, so do that. But also, it's just like like we talked about earlier, at this age, like at this stage in our life, I think it's too early to know like what I really want to dial down in or double down on, and kind of just do that for the rest of my life and be really, really good at that, right? I mean, I think there's so many things out there that you can pursue, and if you really take the time aside to, not even take the time, but if you put the effort in to kind of take that hour in your day, away from, sitting down watching your show, or just like something that you otherwise wouldn't be adding a lot of value to your life in, just towards something that you haven't explored yet. There's some learning to be done, and you can really get some value out of that, and possibly make it another side hustle or something like that. I think that's like, that to me is like fun and really like rewarding, right? And I think everybody would feel that way, and so it's almost just like, before you get started, it's the whole 0 to 1. It's like the most difficult thing. Yeah. I think a lot of people just feel like they're comfortable where they're at, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's the reason why not everybody is,
Is doing everything.
Is building rocket ships and going to Mars and all this stuff. So, it's cool to kind of explore things outside of your domain. So.
Going off of what you said, like obviously pursuing these side projects and learning, just like learning in general, it's something that you find fun. But oftentimes, like, we're all humans, so we all have our slumps. So like when you do have a slump and you just feel unmotivated, what steps do you take, or how do you kick yourself out of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's definitely been times I can think of where, as you mentioned, you're not in a great state of mind and you feel super unmotivated and don't want to do anything. And it's not even that I don't feel that way, like, every once in a while, like once a week or something. But, to kind of like get myself out of that, I think about the bigger picture a lot, and I kind of zoom out my life to, what I'm doing, like what am I here for? And really, like, I want to make the most of my time. And to me, it's like, one of the things I hate the most is wasting time, like whether it be waiting in line for like a restaurant or for the bathroom, or like just like anything where I could be more productive doing something that's, bettering my or someone else's life. It's like why am I even here, right? So I think maybe that's just like part of me that I feel like being complacent and just like not really accomplishing much, where there's times where, as you mentioned, like feeling like super unmotivated, you do just need a reset, right? And I can think of times where I've just taken, a week to myself to just really, just like work on my car, even something as simple as that, just like kind of like get off of the mindset of just like really getting after it like 24/7, right? But then after like a couple days, like it's like, I feel like I'm like, kind of out of my rhythm, and it's something that, I want to get back into to not only just like be more productive, but, be able to do something that's adding value to my life, or doing something to, make the world a better place. So.
No, for sure, man. I completely agree with what you just said about the whole reset part. I feel like it's definitely one of those things where when you're not at your fullest capacity and when you do feel overwhelmed, it's really important to prioritize spending time for yourself.
Yeah.
Whether that's like, pursuing your hobby of like fixing up cars or doing that, or me of just like, I don't know, just like lifting shit.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, like which I do every day. So I guess like that's like my kicker to like kind of get me through the day.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think that's an important piece, honestly. Like through all of this, if there's anything that like is a big takeaway, is like, it's great to really get after it and do all these things, but you do need time to really just like think about what you're doing in the bigger picture, right? And is this like the right path? And if you need to take some time off to just like push iron, or just like, work in your car or whatever it might be, then that's totally fine. You don't have to feel like obligated to constantly be getting after it, because that's how you get burnt out, and
for sure
it's not as rewarding or fulfilling as it might otherwise be. So.
Have a last couple of questions. They're all rapid fire. Okay.
Cool. Let's get it.
First one is, what is your proudest accomplishment or most proud accomplishment?
Wow. Tough, dude.
I know. I didn't give you any questions beforehand.
Yeah. Wow. Maybe buying my first house. When I was when I was 23. I think that's like something that I really like had my eyes set on, and I thought was pretty unattainable, but I was able to get that done, and with kind of the time frame that I wanted to get it done. So.
That's awesome, man. On the flip side, hate to be a negative Nancy, but what is your like greatest, like most, like I guess greatest regret, biggest regret?
Wow, biggest regret. Well, that could be so many things. Because I feel like grass is always greener kind of thing.
Yeah.
And humans inherently think about like what you haven't.
What
done.
ifs? Yeah.
And, like if you had done this, what it would be different, right? I think maybe honestly like not going active duty in the military. I wouldn't say it's like the biggest regret, because I don't live my life with regrets. I try to be positive and that type of thing. But if there's something I can think of that I wish I might have done like in a different life, like done differently entirely, being active duty in the military is a completely different experience, and I think that's something I wanted to pursue just because, it's something that you get valuable experience out of that you can't otherwise in the reserves or for the rest of your life just due to age and that type of thing. So.
Gotcha. Well, you are serving within the next year, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'm sure number one, thank you for your service ahead of time.
Thanks, dude.
But no, dude, I think that's super cool. Like you're one of the only people that I know personally who's serving in the military. Just I feel like it's not as common to find like Asian Americans in the military.
Fair. Yeah.
In terms of goals, what is your goal before you turn 26? Let's say.
Before I turn 26,
Yeah.
great question. Okay, so I think about this all the time, so I should really have a really good answer for this.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I feel like
now
the
that I'm
big
on-
picture, yeah.
Yeah, well, now that I'm on the spot, like, I don't know if I have a good answer. No, I'm just kidding. So, next year, a couple things, right? The realistic goal for this next year is to kind of get through this deployment that I have upcoming for 2023, and you know, really, you know, do my duty, you know, to the fullest, and really, you know, make sure that I take care of all my soldiers when I'm downrange, and all that comes along with, you know, serving country and being on deployment, that type of thing. So I think that's the number one. If I'm being realistic with the prospect of having to deploy, I think that's my focus in making sure that happens. I think bigger picture, like outside of that, whether or not I do deploy, I think within the next few years, I want to start looking at like applying to grad school.
Okay, yeah.
And so I think that's probably the next step for me. I think I've spent about the last 2-3 years working at IBM as a product manager, and I think having this deployment experience might be a good segue to taking a break from working my corporate job and applying to an MBA, and whether it's, you know, an MBA or getting a law degree or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I think those are things that I'll have certainly plenty of time to think about when I'm downrange on deployment.
For sure.
So those are kind of the big things. Maybe if there's one other thing, I think it's just, I know you didn't ask for 3 things, but I'm just
No, I mean, like, you know, I'm very curious, so go ahead.
Yeah, if there's anything else, I think it's just buying more property and getting more involved into real estate and making that a bigger part of my portfolio. Not just in terms of like investing, but also just, you know, the time that I spend every day. I want to get more and more away from having to rely on the cash flow from my W-2 job, as we talked about. And I think for me right now, it makes most sense to either, you know, start a business and work on, you know, or buy a business, or do that through, you know, single family commercial real estate.
Yeah.
And going down that route. So
How about 5 years?
5-year plan.
Yeah.
5 years, I think it gets more into the territory of I want to have, you know, gotten the legs on my own business and really be fleshing that out. I think at the end of the day, I think something I really want to accomplish long term is, as we talked about, obviously financial freedom and being able to, you know, work my own hours and all that, but especially, you know, adding value to society or doing something I'm really passionate about through a business, or running my own company that does something, you know, that I, you know, care about or is valuable to society. Whether that's as simple as, you know, running a gym, or I might help you do that, or
For sure, man. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, or, you know, just like an automotive shop, or you know, something in finance or like investing or just commercial real estate and having, you know, like a bunch of strip malls or something like that. You know, I think those are things that I'm considering, you know, really kind of the priority for, you know, the 5 years out kind of situation.
I feel like your 5-year goal will be very similar to your 10-year goal, but I'm curious if there's anything different that might change for 10 years if we're looking really far out, 35.
Yeah, like around that time frame. No, I think there are certain things that I think in my 30s, like I'll want to consider, and this is me talking as my 24-year-old self, and like, what do I know, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think at that point, some of my personal goals come into play a little bit more, and I think having the financial stability of having grinded out, you know, through my 20s and early 30s will really pay off, or I hope will pay off by that point, where I can focus more on my personal life. And you know, I do want to, you know, get married and have kids and all that. So I think those are things where I want to be established enough that I can really spend the time with my kids, and you know, see them progress through life. And that's one of the things, you know, where I don't do all this stuff for me, right?
Yeah.
I think like in the bigger picture, I don't really care whether or not I'm working 100 hours a week or, you know, doing 40 hours a week. It's like in the future, I don't want my kids to have to be, you know, grinding out, you know, part-time jobs during college to pay for college, or, you know, not knowing where their next meal is going to come from, because I want to be able to provide that, you know, just from like what I've put in already, through the time and effort that I've put in to start business, you know, work and just whatever it might be, to get to that point.
I respect that, man. last question, or not really last question, but last request. For anyone who's stuck around to the very end of the video, I like to give out, any hint of advice or any words of wisdom that you have. Just give the people a little something for sticking around this long.
Wow, yeah. I think if there's anything that I would give out as a piece of advice or just words of wisdom, and it's totally not to be cliche or anything like that, but they're kind of just words I live by, and it's that nothing worth having ever comes easy, and I think some famous person said that before me. That's fine, but I think
if I paraphrase it.
Yeah, and I think I either read it there or I also came up with it in my brain, and that's fine too. But I think that's something to really think about as you're going through your day-to-day life. I know that's very big picture, and it's not don't eat a Big Mac today kind of thing. I think just bigger picture, you realize sometimes it sucks, and you're going through things that people say is this is a great thing to do, this is a great investment, this is the good sports team to play on, or the best job to have, and you get into it and it's wow, this is not what I thought it would be, and I feel like quitting. But just know that at the end of the day, the work you're putting in now will pay off down the road, and there's always something to look forward to, which is really what keeps me going. And just always keeping that in mind that even when it sucks right now, you're gonna look back on that time and be like, wow, that was something that I can now talk about as something that was a really good experience and got me to where I am today. So,
hey man, I appreciate that advice. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Oak. Damn, you guys really got a dime there. So, see you guys, episode 9. Peace.